Hey guys, Stephanie Mitchell here. I'm an online marketing coach for beauty business owners. And first of all, do you notice something different about me? This is the first time I've gone on video on YouTube without wearing any makeup. It's so weird for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy this fresh face a little bit more. And I'm very pumped up today because I have a special guest, Sasha Fedunchak. And she is a former spray tan studio owner, incredibly successful, who ended up closing her spray tan studio because of COVID and rebirthing herself as a branding guru. So she is an incredible owner of Daring Creative, and she helps beauty business owners and female entrepreneurs to create brands that are magnetic, powerful, and above all, unique. Today, we're talking about how to build a brand that is bigger than you. If you're a solo beauty professional, I know a lot of you guys have big dreams about where you want to go next. Maybe you want to build a business that moves more into products, so beauty products or other products, that goes into education. Maybe you want to open an academy. Maybe you want to hire a big team and pull out of the treatment room or off of the salon floor. Maybe you want to turn your business into a franchise that has multiple locations. There's so many options. One thing that you're going to need as you build your business is a brand that speaks to what makes you unique, that speaks to how your values are and how you see the world, and that also carries your business further and forward beyond just yourself. So creating a business that's bigger than you. And we're not just talking about logos and colors and all of that. Sasha's going to break it all down for us. I'm so excited to get into my chat with her, so I'll introduce her right now. Hey, Sasha, I'm so pumped up to be able to chat with you all about this super cool topic about building a brand that's bigger than yourself. Thank you so much for coming on to share your expertise with us.
Of course, Stephanie, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, so just to introduce how I know you, I think I found your spray tan studio, Vacay Beauty, on Instagram. I can't even remember how I found it, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is a spray tan studio that stands out like crazy. And then I followed you and just got all obsessed with your stuff. And then I saw when you transitioned your business, and we'll talk about that, about turning it into a branding studio and all of that. The things that you have done for your own business and all the other beauty businesses that you worked with for branding has been insane. So I'm so excited that we get to pick your brain. So I did a little bit of foreshadowing. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience in the beauty industry, what your businesses have been like, and how you went from being a spray tan business owner to opening your own branding studio?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll keep it brief because it definitely spans over a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I did not start in the beauty industry at all. I started in communications. I got my master's in rhetorical communications, living in Colorado, and I actually started working for a cell phone case company called OtterBox. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I know them, yeah.
Yeah. So I worked with them, really doing corporate communications, moved into marketing, and then I was in communications and marketing for about 10 years before I even went into the beauty industry. So what happened was I just got really sick of working for, old white men telling me what to do. And I was just, had such big ideas around branding and marketing. And at the corporate level, sometimes you don't really lean into relationship marketing as much as you can in a beauty industry. So one of my friends, as I was kind of thinking about getting out of marketing, she said, why don't you open a spray tan salon or do mobile spray tanning? And this was in Philadelphia. I thought she was absolutely crazy because I had literally never even gotten a spray tan myself. And I started to do some research to see what the competitors were doing in the area. And this was back in 2018. So mobile spray tanning really wasn't even as big as it is today.
Right.
It was starting to kind of get going. But then I thought, you know what, why don't I take everything that I've been doing for branding and marketing, everything I've learned, and kind of create my own brand. And that's what I did. Started Vacay Beauty. I did, all the trainings, went to New York for some hands-on training, did various spray tan class, stuff like that. And I opened my mobile studio. It was super successful. And I really do attribute that to the branding, to the way that I positioned the brand.
That's the thing. I feel like sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like you went the brand first. When I saw you on Instagram, I was like, oh, she's thinking forward. Like she's not just thinking about spray tanning people and collecting money. She's thinking about building like a business. And I feel like that stands out so much because most people start a business and then they think about their brand.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I obviously went into it with that exact notion is like, how do I create something that means so much more than just a spray tan? Because again, I never even had a spray tan. So I wasn't even that excited about spray tanning women. I was really excited around what I could build from the branding perspective.
Yeah. Do you have any like I don't know if you still have your Instagram, but can we look at it or something of like so that people can get an example of what your brand kind of looked like for Vacay Beauty?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can share my screen. I have a couple of things I can show you. I don't still have my Instagram. Are you ready for a screen share?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, bring it up, and then I'll bring it on. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just pull this out. So I actually don't like my old logo at all. If I were to redo it, I would do something completely different. But what I did do kind of off the bat with this image and then this image here is I really took like full ownership of the brand. These photos that you see are some of my really good friends. So I did all my own photo shoots. This image that you see over here on the left, I was featured by Philly Mag, which is obviously a huge magazine in Philadelphia. They came and did a feature, and that was my little studio. You can see some photo shoots there. But that was kind of the vibe. The whole vibe was like this retro, kind of this idea of like always being on vacation, taking care of
Yeah.
yourself. Um, and really empowering women back before all of this was trendy. So this is an example of like a post tan care card I've designed, and then like I said, this was actually my best friend that I spray tanned and we did a photo shoot.
Oh,
Looks a
that's
little blurry
awesome.
here,
And
but
I
then
remember that you were featured in a lot of your photos. Like you did your own photo shoots with yourself, like showing your spray tan, showing the real you, all of that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll go ahead and stop the share now.
Okay, yeah. So tell us like what happened when you transitioned from like how did it happen? Why did it happen? And what does your business look like today?
Yeah. So everything was going so great for Vacay Beauty. And then if you remember, this little thing happened called
Yeah.
COVID. So yeah. So basically at that time, I was in my studio, I don't know, almost 8 months. Again, everything was going great. I just had the highest month in revenue that I've ever had. I was hiring team members, literally doing interviews. And then I actually had like a near death miscarriage and then COVID and the
Oh
whole
my
quarantine
gosh.
shutdown happened literally the next day after I got out of the hospital.
Wow.
And at that point, I was like, okay, what do I do? So I actually held on to the studio for about 6 months. I moved right away as soon as, we got locked down into pushing retail. And I think I did like almost $20,000 in retail just
Oh
over the
wow.
couple of
Like you
months.
were selling home tanning kits?
Yeah, home tanning products because I was like, you can't come in the studio, but let me still, entertain you on Instagram and get
Yeah.
you to buy all this stuff. And people still want it to look good, especially, just the emotions around the whole quarantine, as I'm sure we can all remember.
Yeah.
They still wanted to feel like themselves. So I did really well with that. And then I actually got pregnant again by the time the restrictions were lifted in Philadelphia. I did spray a little bit in the studio, but it was very, very risky. And I just didn't feel comfortable keeping it at that point. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, I did close the studio. I did consider selling. I met with a couple of people to sell the brand, but I honestly just felt too attached to it. And I thought, I'm just going to shut it down. At that point, I had made so many connections in the beauty industry, and people were asking me all the time, how did you do this? How did you, build a brand like this? And that's really what kind of like triggered the thought, I'll
Yeah.
just start my own branding and marketing and do exactly what I did for Vacay Beauty for other people, for other women in the beauty industry. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years.
I love that. So you have a team. It's not just you anymore. I'm guessing you started out by yourself, but then you ended up like building up a team.
Yeah.
What's the name of your business?
It's Daring Creative.
Daring Creative. So what does Daring Creative do for beauty business owners when it comes to like building a brand and building a business?
Yeah. Yeah. So we are full scope branding and marketing agency. We start a lot of our clients with brand strategy. So we don't just do pretty logos. I talk about that all the time. A logo is not going to save your business. A simple brand isn't going to save your business. A lot of people don't know what a brand is. So we like to really start with brand strategy and helping people to really understand who's the heart of their brand, or what is the heart of their brand, what does the competitive landscape look like, who are their target audience, how do we actually create a brand that resonates with them. And then we work with them from brand strategy to brand design to website design to like full marketing, social media management, email marketing campaigns, setting up courses. We've done all sorts of stuff over the last 2 years.
Wow. So, do you mostly work with businesses who are like at a certain point and they're like, okay, like I've gotten bigger and I feel like I need to start taking myself more seriously, so it's time to build a brand? Or do you mostly work with people who are like just starting a business and they want to start it with a brand? Or like what level are you working with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, honestly, the last 2 years, we've worked with a lot of brand new entrepreneurs, but I've really kind of shifted my perspective and even the positioning of our own company to work with a little bit more seasoned entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I really feel that you do need that first 1 to 2 years to kind of test the waters
Yeah.
before you make a big investment. Absolutely, great branding and marketing can help your business grow more quickly. It can take you further faster, as I like to say. But at the end of the day, we all know that first 1 to 2 years, you're experimenting, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about your target audience. So I have had some clients who've invested a ton of money right off the get go, and then they want to change things, not because they don't like their branding, but because they've evolved and their business has evolved. So
Yeah.
now we're really working with people who are 2, 3, 5 years into their business, and they're really looking to take it to the next level.
Okay, awesome. So let's talk about the brand part. I mean, there's so many different ways to define a brand. How do you define it?
Yeah. So the way that I define it is a brand, I kind of like to think about it as a membership. What are you giving people? What reason are you giving them to belong to your brand, right? We all make choices every day. Do we go to Target? Do we go to Walmart? Do we buy Adidas sneakers? Do we buy Nike sneakers? We buy things and make decisions based on how we feel and what we want those brands to almost mean about us, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I say brands are not just some pretty logo. Of course, that helps. That's part of a brand identity. And that can help inspire people to take action with you or not.
Yeah.
But ultimately, why VK Beauty was so successful was because I was building this whole like membership, this whole thing that people wanted to belong to. They wanted to belong to, something bigger than themselves. Like you were saying, VK Beauty really stood for women taking the time back for themselves to kind of, get a break, to feel like they're always on vacay, to get
Hmm.
educated about the beauty services that they're getting. And so to me, that's what a brand is.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And I feel like, see, here's the thing, and I think that this is like you're the perfect person to talk with right now, because in my business, I have always struggled with my brand because I run such like a personal business where I'm an educator, and so like my brand is kind of myself. And
Yeah.
so like my journey has been learning how to be more of myself in my business, and that's a journey in itself, because when you first start out, as you probably know, like you are more shy and more hesitant to be real about who you actually are. But then as you go on, you're like, okay, no, this works. People like this. Like, this is how I need to do it.
Mhm.
But I've always struggled with like defining what my brand is beyond me. Like, when say you're a solo beauty professional and it's just you, how do
Mhm.
you build a brand that's bigger than yourself?
Yeah, great question. And I think this can apply to you too. And what I would encourage you to do is think about, what is your philosophy? Like ultimately you want to, this is my preference, but I like to build polarizing brands, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to get someone to buy into you, or that's going to repel someone. And that's exactly what you want to do. You don't want everyone to like you
Mm-hmm.
because that's like overwhelming. And then you're really diluting yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to show up as your most authentic self in your brand, or you want to build an authentic brand, you have to get really honest with, what do you actually believe about the work
Hmm.
that you're doing? And when you share that, that's what's going to attract people, right? People knew that I really could give like two craps less about spray tans. Instead, they were really focused on the idea that I wanted to deliver an incredible customer experience, that
Yeah.
I wanted to educate the crap out of them, tell them things about spray tanning they never even knew, that I wanted to make them feel really comfortable and give them a glass of wine and just chat with them for a while instead of putting them on a conveyor belt and getting them out of my studio.
Yeah.
And so for you and for anyone who is a solopreneur or just starting out, don't think about just the service that you offer, right? Teaching someone paid ads or spray tanning or, doing hair. Think about what is your philosophy and what is your unique stance on essentially like your mission, right? What is your purpose? That's why with brand strategy, we start with that internal part of your brand, your mission, your purpose, your vision, your values, your brand voice, your personality. If you don't have that nailed, it's going to be really hard for you to show up consistently and to attract people that you actually want to attract to your business.
Yeah, that's why I think it can be so helpful to work with someone like you, because you get those ideas out of our head because we know that we have them. It's like when you get someone to like help you write a resume, you know that you've got all this experience and but you need someone else to help you get it out of your own brain, because I don't know that I've ever done that where I make my business bigger than me and I make it about something. I feel like I do it sometimes without realizing it, but I still haven't completely hit on what is it that makes me unique other than just like the service that I provide to my students.
Yeah.
I want to ask you
Well,
about your
girl, we
own.
can have a brand strategy power hour and
I
I can help
know
you.
we need to. Okay, so I want to talk about your brand because the brand for Daring Creative is freaking amazing. So
Thank you.
you can see my screen right now.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about your brand. How would you define the brand for Daring Creative?
Yeah, so it took me a while to get here. Like I mentioned, I've been doing this now for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And when I started, I was like any other marketing agency because I wanted to play it safe.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
pink. I actually even called myself, my initial name was Fierce Boss Co., which like, like that is so but it was pink, it was red, it was like girly. And then I kind of went into this more like boho thing. And it always felt like ick. Like that's not
Mm,
at all who I am. Like I have tattoos, like leather, like this is just not what was, representative of me. And
yeah.
so after I had my daughter in January of 2021, I actually renamed to Daring Creative because I still wanted something, something fierce,
Yeah.
something really bold. But I was really inspired by Daring Greatly, by Brene Brown, and this whole idea that like when we are our most vulnerable selves, that's when we're actually our strongest selves.
Yeah.
And so that's where the name was inspired, and that's kind of my whole mission with women in the beauty industry now. I feel like beauty is so personal. And so when we're able to get personal, when we're able to get vulnerable, when we're able to
Hmm.
think bigger than ourselves, that's when we actually create brands that are legacy brands.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah,
I love the look. Like it's so unique. So how would you call it? Like it's like old Hollywood glam. Like how do you define this look?
yeah, girl, I don't even know. I get these crazy ideas in my head, and I flew my whole team out to Nashville to work with this incredible photographer, Samantha Hearn. And we
Hmm.
rented this pink house that's like super vintage and crazy. And we just had ourselves a day. Like, I just wanted to create, not that look of like the branding agency wearing the suit and,
Yeah.
just like blank walls. I wanted to create something really daring, like a little bit sexy, a little bit dark, a little bit glam, and
Yeah.
show
You've got
women
a
that,
lot of like sparkle and like the kind of like 1970s like gauzy look. I don't know. I don't even know how to define it. I just think it's so cool and
yeah,
it's badass. And I wish, here's the thing, I'm sure a lot of people see this and they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that. And maybe they're like, oh, I should do a photo shoot like Sasha. But then they're just making a cheap version of something that comes from your heart without figuring out for ourselves, okay, what is it that comes from our heart? Here's the thing. Okay, let me come back. I don't know that I have that like funky, cool, sexy like side to me. I feel so basic. Like what would you say to someone who wants to create a brand that's like really unique, but maybe we just feel like kind of boring?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have snakes in your branding and be like making out with a mirror like I was practically to create something unique. There's so many different aspects to a brand. There's the visuals, there's the messaging, and there's just even like the experience or the approach you create. I mean, you've hear, and I'm sure you've said this or you've heard this, a lot of people hear this is like, you are what makes your brand special. And I
Hmm.
say, yeah, but really it's more like what you do for your clients or what you do for your target audience or how you serve people. That's what makes you special. So I would say take some of that pressure off yourself. Like you have to have some like crazy unique aspect about yourself
Hmm.
and really think about, how do you want people to feel? So me every day, I don't wear makeup. This is the most makeup I've worn in forever. I'm usually, in sweatpants. I'm taking care of my kid. I never look like what you see on my website, but
Hmm.
that's kind of that aspirational version of who
Right.
I wish that I could be. And so I think when you can kind of separate yourself from your brand and say, what is that aspirational experience I want to create? How do I want to make people feel about working with me? That's what you want to kind of be able to create in your visuals on your website versus feeling like you have to be a representation of that every single day, 24/7. I don't know if that helps.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, no, that does help. But I also want to be real to who I am too. So it's like kind of like a weird push and pull kind of thing. Like you want to be aspirational and you want to give something to like, you want people to have something to look to of like, oh my gosh, like I want to get to that place. But at the same time, you don't want it to necessarily be unattainable, do you?
No, absolutely not. And I completely agree with you where, I wouldn't do a photo shoot where I'm just throwing $100 bills or I'm in some like fancy apartment making it look like mine. I'm not on board with creating a look that isn't authentic to you. But I think when you almost want to go deeper and really tap into that feeling, right? So the look that I have for my marketing or when I work with other clients, we don't create something that is like there every single day, but we want to have that memorable experience. And so, for you, I would ask you things like, what is important to you? What's your story? How do we start to kind of represent your story? Maybe something from your past or something for your future that really feels like, this aligns with your bigger brand,
Yeah.
versus like focusing on like one little thing like a photo shoot. The photo shoot comes way after we kind of figure out the brand strategy piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that totally makes sense. I love that. So let's talk about like some of the ways that you help beauty professionals with their branding. So you work with them before you even like create a logo or a website or anything like that. You work with them
Mhm.
on their brand strategy. You help them to define this thing, this like
Mhm.
for a lot of us it can seem kind of confusing and big, but you make it simple and you turn it into like a concrete thing, which is this is your brand identity.
Mhm.
And then what do you do? Like what are the different things that you recommend that we start off with to start using that brand identity in our business?
Yeah, yeah. So I can actually share my screen again. I
Yeah.
have a great example of a client that we recently worked with. When you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead, bring up Canva
Okay.
there.
All right. So that's just my stuff. Okay. So here's an example of a client that we recently worked with. And this is a luxury airbrush tanning client out of Texas. So it's called Southern Glow. So this is just one of her logos. This is just a graphic. But she wanted something really Western, really cool. And so this is what we came up with. I won't go through like the whole mood board and everything, but one of the other things, like a lot of people think, I just need a logo. Okay, cool. Here's a logo. But again, that's not super memorable on its own. And so, as part of her whole vibe, she was really into this idea of like Western meets Kim Kardashian, like Western, but
Yeah.
sassy, right? So, we're able to create all of these. These are examples of like social media graphics that we did for her that are a little bit sassy. They've got these like fun little Western images on them. Here's another example as
Ooh, I love
well.
that.
Some of her social media stuff that we did for her. So it's really about how do you take that visual branding that now means something to you, means something to your audience, and then get it in front of them all the time. And that doesn't mean just like slapping your logo on something over and over again. It's about now creating that like sassy experience in this case throughout everything that she does. So we even worked with her on
Oh, cool.
product labels. So
Mm-hmm.
she has a couple of products that she came out with. This is a photo shoot of hers. And as you can see, again, it's about how do we take that one logo and now create a memorable experience for someone, whether they're looking at her social media or they're looking at her products or they're even on her website. Here's an example of her website.
I love
So
it.
one thing we did on her website, obviously this is just an image, but there's like lots of graphics and videos on here. But one thing that we did for her services is she came up with these and we helped her kind of refine them, is thinking of all of her different services of names of like famous country singers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the Let's Glow Girl, but then we have the Shania, the Carrie. There's a couple of other people. I'm not very familiar with country music,
Yeah.
but like all of them have, a little element of that like country western vibe.
Oh my
We
gosh, I
worked with her a
love
little bit
that.
on her photo shoot, and you can see she's even got like glittery cowgirl boots on and a little cowgirl hat. So everything goes together versus just, having this one and done logo and then thinking like, okay, how do I actually, whoops, sorry about that,
No, that's
Stephanie.
okay.
How do I actually now get people to get excited about me? It's like you want to think about how you can create that experience over and over again.
Yeah, I love what you did for Southern Glow. That is so cool. So a few questions about that. Do you recommend that when someone does their brand, they do it like 360, as in like get the logo done, but then also get like the color palette plus the social media graphics and the website and all of the stuff like the business cards and everything like that? Or do we do it in steps?
Yeah. So not all clients will start with brand strategy. I try to encourage it as much as possible because it really does help inform the design. If someone wants like an ultra luxe design for their brand because it's trendy, but then we find out that their target audience is like moms, it's not going to resonate, right? So really understanding their brand, like what the plan is for the brand, what are the goals for the business, that's where we would like to start. Some clients want to just move right into brand identity design. So our package actually comes with business cards, social media graphics, like
Mm-hmm.
all in one. We even do a little launch video. So the one
Oh,
for
cool.
Southern Glow is super cool. You should watch that one sometime on Instagram. And then the website is definitely an add-on. And again, my whole approach is not like, hey, I want to sell you as much as possible. It's really like, what are your business goals? At the end of the day, if we don't know what your goals are, what your revenue goals are, what you're hoping to do, then just having a new logo or just having a new website, you're just going to check those boxes off and then wait and wait and wait for customers to come. So it's really about, again, what are your goals and what is your bigger brand plan and your
Yeah.
bigger marketing plan? And then how does a brand identity and potentially a website fit into that?
I,
Otherwise, it could be a huge waste of money because you
yeah.
have to activate those assets.
Absolutely. So that brings us to kind of like the topic of our interview, which is building a brand that's bigger than yourself. So the reason I wanted to talk about that is because I work with a lot of independent beauty pros who are like in the first few years of their business, but I know that a lot of them have really big dreams of where they want to go. They want to do things like build up a team, maybe move out of the treatment room and, just become the owner of the business. They want to have a product line. They want to maybe open, a franchising business where they can have other people opening up their similar studios. They want to go into different kinds of products and maybe they want to go into education, open up like a training academy. Like there's so many different avenues that you can take with a beauty business.
Mhm.
Let's talk about how having a brand fits into that and like how it's so crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest thing about really knowing who your brand is not knowing what services you offer, because as you're mentioning, your services or how you want to make money in your business are going to change. Whether
Mm-hmm.
that's you're doing the services, someone else's, you have products, you now have a course. So your brand is really that invisible foundation of your business that allows you to stand on something and repeat it over and over again so people know what you're all about,
Yeah.
right? So for example, I'm just signed a hair extension brand or a hair extension salon in Key West. So excited to work with this woman. And she right now has, small salon, two people working for her. She also is selling extensions. She also is putting a course out there. So we are going to be now doing the work to say, okay, what is like your philosophy on hair extensions? Because if you're just selling hair extensions or you're just offering a course, like who cares, honestly, right? So we have to figure out what makes either your approach or your
Mm-hmm.
philosophy unique, and then how do we leverage that? We have to create marketing, like, whether you want to call it a positioning statement or a brand story around that, so no matter what you do, people will always know, what does this brand represent, and I can either buy in, or I could buy out, I could walk away. So for those people that you're working with, I would encourage them to think about, what is it that I'm all about? What is my actual mission personally,
Mm-hmm.
right? What, because I might be a personal brand, I might be one person right now, but also what is the impact that I want to make? And beauty is so incredible, the beauty industry, because it really is so personal,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
For many of these women, it's about like taking that time back for ourselves, because we've been working our whole lives just to get permission from someone to like take a break. Like beauty has that opportunity for connection and such deeper stories. And those stories are not superfluous, right? What is superfluous is like, I do this service, I do this, I sell that. That's the boring stuff.
Yeah.
When you're really able to go deeper, like I said, get vulnerable, that's where all of a sudden, no matter what you do in your business, it can all come back to that invisible foundation, and you have something really strong to stand on.
Yeah, I love that. So, do you have any examples of clients that you've worked with, or maybe even brands that you admire, who have kind of built a brand that's like bigger than themselves, and having a really solid brand has helped them to get to like some really cool places?
Oh my gosh, I have like so many. I have to even just think of which story I'd want to share. Okay, one story that I love so much. This is a sugaring studio. So when I started working with this girl, with this woman, she just had the idea that she wanted to do something different. She had spent many years training on sugaring, which is like a hair removal
Mm-hmm.
process, right? She worked for other sugaring companies, and she was like, I want to do it on my own. And her big thing, her big philosophy around the sugaring industry was this whole idea that she didn't want to create this conveyor belt experience. Her thing was that she wanted to add 10 extra minutes to that initial consultation and create this whole idea of like safe space. And this was like 2, 3 years ago. We started working together. So this was again before safe space became really trendy
Yeah.
to say. She always says that, like, I said it first, and she really did. But she really wanted to focus on that experience, right? Sugaring, hair removal, whatever, it's a thing. People do it. But her whole thing was, how do I create this experience that people come to know and crave when it comes to hair removal, especially, in our private areas and things like that. So this was all an idea that she had. And she thought, I'm going to start working with Sasha. Maybe in a year, I'll open a studio. Well, she opened her first studio within 6 months of us working together. And then 6 months later, she got like literally tripled her space.
Oh,
And it
wow.
is stunning, stunning. It's like 2 floors now. She's got a whole team. Her branding is incredible. We did her website, of course, but then we redid it, right? Because then like she grew. So we had to add some more things. Now she's doing things like training, and she's making a ton of money off of that.
Oh
I'm
my
so happy
gosh,
for
that's so
her.
cool.
She wants to have a second location soon. So, all because of something that sounds so simple. Oh, I want to add 10 more minutes to the consultation. But
Yeah.
she's so passionate about the customer experience, and that infiltrates every part of her messaging and her brand story, that when people think of her company is called She Sugars. When people think of She Sugars, they know exactly what it stands for.
I
Unlike,
love
some
that.
other places, like, okay, in and out, wax me, boom, 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 sugar me.
Yeah.
No, it's completely different there. It's like truly coming home and like getting waxed by your best friend. It sounds weird, but everyone loves it. And so that's really allowed her to grow way faster. Sometimes she says like too fast because she's done so well.
Oh my gosh. Can I check out her website? It's She Sugars.
She Sugars, is it .co?
She
I have no
Sugars Co. She's in Philadelphia.
idea.
Okay, I have it here. Let me share my screen here. Yeah. Okay. So the photos, the video, all of that stuff about
Yeah.
like I saw the first thing that popped up was like her talking on the couch with one of her clients.
Yeah, that's actually one of her team members. But yeah, so she already has multiple team members, and I did this video for her. and you can see the process, you can see the studio. It's just so beautiful. So
Yeah, I love it. Do you feel like having good photos of yourself is a really important part of having a brand?
it's very important. Yeah. And it's one of those things, it is an investment, but when done really well, I didn't do the photos. We had another photographer come in for that. But,
Mm-hmm.
when thinking about your brand and creating that experience, photography is one thing that cannot go untouched.
Yeah.
When you're starting out, stock photography, great, do the best that you absolutely can. But it really is about, showing that behind the scenes everywhere, whether it's your social media, your Instagram, your marketing materials. That's why when I had Vacay Beauty, I was like, the first thing I did before I even had an official LLC was tan two of my best friends and do like a whole photo shoot, bought the camera,
Mm-hmm.
bought the lights, the whole thing. Because I was like, this is very, very important.
Yeah, I tell that to my students too. I'm like, yeah, if you're ready to bring your business to the next level, you need professional photos and preferably also professional video of yourself that you can use in so many different ways. Like it makes such a big difference. Okay,
Absolutely.
so I love what you're doing at Daring Creative. I think it's so cool. You said that you're working with a lot more like experienced entrepreneurs who are a few years into their business. They've kind of done those first few tricky years. They know what their brand is about. Maybe they've got more clarity. I'm assuming that that also means that you charge more of a premium to, work with your business, to have you guys go there, do your branding, do all of those graphics and all of that business stuff. How do we know if we're ready to work with a branding agency like yours, or if it's better to do our branding stuff on our own?
Yeah. So again, I'll say it all goes back to your business goals. So my thing, every time I have a discovery call with someone, that's exactly where we start. I say, tell me
Mm-hmm.
about your business, what's been going on for you, and what are your goals, and why do you feel like you can't get there by yourself? So we are all more than capable of, pulling up YouTube University and learning Canva and doing what we can to get us to a certain level. But at some point, we all kind of have our own zone of genius. And so
Yeah.
if your zone of genius is hair or skin, like it's going to be hard to wear 30,000 different hats. And in
Yeah.
the beginning, you have to, because, we all start out and we have no money. So I've been there too. But at some point, you have to say, okay, what's more valuable? Money or time? Those are really the two things that we have. And if I want to save money, this growing my brand might take me more time. If I want to kind of shorten the time of how long it's going to take me to hit some revenue goals, or to expand to a second location, or to bring on 5 more team members, I might have to spend a little more money. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's ultimately, it really depends on what your goals are. If you're just starting out, I think a great way to work with us potentially is that brand strategy power
Mm-hmm.
hour. A couple $100. And what we do is a 60-minute, like, intensive phone call where I'm asking you tons of questions, taking tons of notes. And then a week later, you get a mini brand Bible, I call it. And that has like the spin of everything that you say in our conversation, but now positioned against a mission statement, purpose statement, your vision, your core values, brand personality, your brand voice. And these are all things that you can literally copy paste, throw up on a website, or start talking about on Instagram or
Yeah.
TikTok, that really start to say to people, hey, I know who my brand is. It's not just Sasha over here spray tanning. This is what we're actually about. And that really does get people excited.
Yeah, I
So that's
love
a great
that.
way to kind of start.
You're tempting me with that branding power hour and all of the other things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do that for my brand. Like, I want to go to the next level. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So, how do we know if it's a good return on investment? Like, how do you work with your clients to like help them understand, okay, yes, this is like a significant financial investment,
Mhm.
but it's going to come back to you in spades?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like anything else. It really depends on how you activate it, right? So, you can go and get a stunning logo from Etsy for like $50,
Mm-hmm.
and it just depends how you use it. So, if you like, we'll go back to my Southern Glow client. Okay. Her name is Allison. She's amazing. I'm not even joking when I say people message her and she tells me this every day, saying, like, who did your branding? Your, like, everything looks so cool.
Yeah.
But guess what? All of her graphics that she's doing them herself. So yeah, she made that initial investment into this brand. She really understands like her brand strategy. She has great, logos and initial social media graphics and a website, but now she's taking it to, save money. She continues to do things herself and she does them on Canva. And so she really continues to, activate all of those assets and build that brand. People are getting excited, whether it's other spray tan artists or people are finding her saying, I've never seen like a spray tan company like yours with this whole theme.
Yeah.
So it really, like, if it's like anything else, right? You can pay tons of money for, the best service in the entire world, but then if you just kind of like leave it in a binder somewhere on your desk, you're not going to get that investment. So you have
Yeah.
to have a plan for how you're going to activate it. Now, when it comes to websites, we do everything we can to like help your website show up on Google with SEO and a really strategic layout in terms of like sales psychology, what people need to know depending on where they're at on your website. But if you never touch your website again, it's going to be pretty hard for you to show up on Google, right? So what's your plan for email marketing? What's your plan for writing blogs to help you, continue to attract business in? Are you going to connect to Google My Business and make sure that that's all speaking to each other?
Yeah.
That's all stuff that we can help with. But we really do work with businesses at every budget because some people don't want to start with us doing everything for them. They want to
Yeah.
start the DIY approach. So cool, let's do that. And then if and when you ever feel like, this is too much, we're here to kind of take that back for you.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so my last question for you, and I'm coming from personal experience here. How do you create a brand that you still like in 5 years? Because I feel like so much of what we choose is based on things that we like right now, and it's subconsciously also based on like what's kind of trendy right now. I've done that before where I like tried to do my own branding and choose my own colors, and then 2 years later I was like, oh, what was I thinking? Like that was so awful. And then I just kept changing it and changing it. And then I just realized, like, okay, I just want to stick with something neutral so that I don't get sick of it. But I'm just curious, like, what your experience with that is.
Yeah, yeah. So I love this question so much. And we often, when we start the branding process, we'll do like a whole creative direction to really make sure that the client we're working with is bought into not just a logo example, but a whole direction for their brand. And I would say two things. One, this is where it's helpful to have brand strategy because we don't design things based on what you like and what you put on your Pinterest board. We want to know, does this make sense for your clientele? Does this
Yeah.
make sense for your where you want to take your business in 5 years?
Yeah.
If not, then we're probably not going to do it, right? So we've worked with some clients where we've kind of pushed back and been like, we see that you have this stuff on your Pinterest board, but actually that's just really trendy right now. In another year, it's probably going to be really boring and then you're going to waste your money.
Yes.
So we are
Yes.
very upfront with people based on what's actually happening in the design world and design trends. And two, I would say, the best advice I can give anyone who's considering branding and they don't have the budget to rebrand every year or every 5 years is go simple because simple is what's going to have longevity. So personally, we are a design studio. We really focus on typography. So like fonts, and I could show you in a second, like a whole collection of different
Oh,
brands we've
yeah,
done
absolutely.
here. But when you really focus on typography and you also really focus on your brand strategy and your messaging strategy, then you again have a foundation that you don't feel like you have to change. If you look at some of the world's, luxury brands like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, I mean, there's so many that I can think of. Like all of their logos are just simple. They might have one thing that is kind of like the memorable thing that you think of, but for the most part, it's simple typography because you have to be able to read it. You have to be able to easily recognize it. So
Yeah.
when you go too trendy with your colors or too crazy with your typography, yeah, you're going to get really sick of that. So
Yeah.
it's really best to go simple and to really think timeless and to think deeper than just the visuals. And in order to do that, you do need brand strategy.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, that is so good. Sasha, I have loved, loved, loved talking with you. I've learned so much. I'm getting like fired up to like make a brand that's not cookie cutter and it's not like white bread boring. So I might be in touch with you soon about that. In the meantime, if someone wants to work with you, how do they find you? How do they get in touch with you? And what are the first steps for them?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I've loved talking with you, and girl, I got you. I already have so many ideas for where I feel like we can take you.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in working with us or learning more about us, you can check our website, daringcreative.co, and then Instagram, same thing at daringcreative.co. And we do free 30-minute discovery calls. We do a lot of them where it is really truly just about listening to, where the business is at and how we can help them. I always say I'm the worst salesperson in the world because I just ask questions and listen a lot. But it's really a great place to start to kind of learn a little bit more about us and see if we'd be a good fit.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for chatting about how to create a brand that's bigger than yourself. I know a lot of the people watching have big dreams, and having a really great brand can help you get there. So I hope that some of them will take away what you've said, learned a lot, and also maybe get in touch with you to help with their own brands. Thank you so much, Sasha, and I will chat with you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.